Hey, everybody. Welcome back to your Dawn of Autonomy podcast. I'm Dawn Zolai, your host, CEO of P3 Tech Consulting, and publisher at Autonomy Global. We are deep into a month that we've dedicated to the theme of bigger and better. It's sponsored actually by a North Dakota company called Meadowlark Aircraft Company. If you missed that show, go back and watch it. It was amazing. But when you think about bigger and better, you got to think about North Dakota because not only is the drone industry getting bigger and better, but every single day in that state, they're doing bigger and better things for this industry. And in large part due to the two amazing guests we have here today. First, I'd like to introduce Senator John Hoeven. This is a first for us, sir, to have a senator on the show. So we are so honored to have you with us. And,
Oh,
and Yes, absolutely. And then Tom Swoyer from GrandSKY. Tom is a friend to the show. He's been on many times with many guests, and he brought the senator on today. So before we get into everything that's happening in North Dakota, sir, can you tell us first a little bit about yourself and your own personal background?
Colonel, great to be with you. And of course, Tom, we work with Tom Swoyer, and he's absolutely the best. I was governor of North Dakota from 2000 to 2010, and I've been in the Senate from 2010 until the present. And I worked on a lot of different things with the military, but for us, the drone and counter drone technology is front and center. We have an amazing partnership, and we look forward to talking to you about it.
Amazing. Well, thank you so much. And Tom, same question to you. Tell us just a little bit about yourself.
Sure. For the last 10 years, I've been the president and developer of GrandSKY on Grand Forks Air Force Base in Grand Forks, North Dakota. It's been quite a journey building the amenities and attracting companies that want to find a better way, a faster way, cheaper way to fly UAS, demonstrate their capabilities, and to develop their aircraft. And so that's fundamentally what my job is to bring all the companies, the marketing, the finance, the facilities, and bring that all together in one place so that UAS companies can grow.
Well, that's awesome, Tom. Thank you so much for everything you do as well. And, they say a picture paints a thousand words. There's been so much going on in North Dakota, in particular with Project Ultra. We're going to talk about Project Ultra here momentarily. But first, I want to roll a quick video to kind of give you an overview of some of the latest updates on this amazing DoD focused logistics project. So let's just go ahead and roll. All right, what we're seeing here is Skyway's aircraft. There were some recent demonstrations between Grand Forks Air Force Base and Cavalier Space Station in North Dakota, where they delivered real medical supplies. And this was really groundbreaking because this was what Project Ultra in large part is all about, pinning down the operational challenges, but also having military aircraft fly in the national airspace system between bases. And we're talking a 50-mile stretch here. And you can see the drone taking off. You can see the folks back in the ops center monitoring this furiously. Then momentarily here, we're going to see the drone land successfully. And this is just another segment of Project Ultra. There's also counter UAS components, UAS traffic management components to it, lots of things. And by the way, everybody, if you missed our worldwide premiere about Project Ultra, Tom was a part of that. Obviously, we had Grand Forks County, we had Vantas on there, Northern Plains UAS test site, talking about that project when it launched. It is continuing. And not only is that continuing, but the ceiling has been raised, Senator. I know there was $100 million now put against that project. You had a big announcement recently. So lots of great things going on. Sir, I want to ask you first. So many things have been going on in North Dakota for so many years. I mean, Tom just said he at GrandSKY celebrated a decade recently. What motivated you to advocate for unmanned aircraft system innovation as part of North Dakota's economic and national security strategy? I mean, you've really embraced the technology the whole entire state has under your leadership. what motivated you to say this is a place we need to go? This is a technology we need to embrace.
Thanks, Colonel. Appreciate you showing that film. And I got to just admire for a minute Tom Sawyer's beard. I tell you, that thing is coming in really good. I hadn't seen him since he went for the full facial, but it's really, it's outstanding. Actually, we started a little bit before Tom joined us, but he's been magnificent, and we're going to talk about some of the absolutely incredible things that he's helped or had made happen and worked with us to do. And he's an example of the kind of partnership that we've built with so many people, so many companies, so many parts of the DoD and everything else. But we started in 2005, and that was because of the BRAC Commission. That was the final round of the Base Realignment and Closure Commission. At that time, it was governor, and in 2005, we lost tankers from the Grand Forks Air Force Base and F-16s from our guard base in Fargo, Hector Field.
Okay.
We needed a new mission in both cases, and we decided that unmanned was the future. And fortunately, it was a good bet, and we've put incredible legs behind it. So that was when I was governor, but I also started a program for a UAS Center of Excellence at the University of North Dakota, where we have the largest flight training school in the country, the John D. Odegaard School. And then when I went to the Senate in 2011, we actually passed legislation to set up the 6 test sites. We were the first test site, the Northern Plains test site. Tom came on, as he said, 10 years ago, working with the county. We set up an enhanced use lease with the Air Force. Kathleen Ferguson was Assistant Secretary of Air Force at that time, was very helpful to us, first of its kind, where we could fly manned, unmanned, military and civilian aircraft off the same runway. And then Tom has just helped us continue to put together more and more incredible partnerships. There's no way we could even touch on a fraction of them in this half-hour conversation. I know we're going to focus a little bit on Project Ultra, but we have, whether it's small entrepreneurial companies or the big guys, we have the who's who in the aviation and aerospace industry working with us now.
Yeah, absolutely. I've been up there multiple times, Senator. In fact, you've been on our full crew, what we used to call our full crew event streams from GrandSKY as part of the UAS Summit. What really impresses me most every time I go to North Dakota, and it's every time, is how every single component is swimming in the same direction, or flying, if you will, in formation. Academia, as you said, UND, government under your leadership, and local and municipal government as well. Industry. It's just really amazing to see, and it's quite frankly very rare. Tom, I'm going to go back over to you, and you mentioned it. You wanted to have this space, and the senator alluded to this enhanced use lease, first of its kind with the United States Air Force. What gave you the vision? The senator and his team were, as early as 2005, looking at this technology in terms of what can be a great mission for the Guard and for the active duty Air Force Base. But you had kind of a different angle, more on the commercial side. What inspired you to come to North Dakota and work with the senator and others in the state to create GrandSKY?
There's kind of 2 answers to that, Don. The first answer is, oh, well, we saw UAS, and that part's, partly true. We had to be led to it. The other part is I had left my old job and started a new company. I was hungry and they were hiring. So, Grand Forks County is a great group of people to work with. It's really easy to do business here in North Dakota. But we absolutely had to be a horse led to water with respect to UAS. I couldn't spell drone. I was vaguely familiar from movies and things like that. But in the first week, we spent a whole week interviewing all kinds of people. The RQ-4 Joint Squadron Commander, the 69th Reconnaissance Wing Commander, Reconnaissance Squadron Commander, excuse me, a whole bunch of people, and a lot of really great experts who have been in this field far longer than us at the university and across the state. We interviewed all of them, and there was such clear interest, motivation, and a clear direction that UAS was going. And basically, the only thing I can describe is I walked away from all those interviews and all those meetings knowing that autonomy and uncrewed aviation was going to be the future of the aviation industry. And since then, we have dug in completely between GrandSKY and another company that you may or may not know we own. We own a Part 135 aerial intelligence company in Idaho. And we got into that because we wanted to understand where that crossover was going to be and what jobs can be done with UAS and what jobs still need to be done with crewed aircraft. So we've, really been building along those lines. And all along the way, we have had tremendous support. I like the way you described it. In North Dakota, we're flying in formation from our congressional delegation through our governor's office, through the legislature. Everybody is organized to go forward, and we all work pretty well together. So that's a big help.
Yeah, I mean, you all out of the gate were number one, and a lot of other states are starting to emulate what you've done, but capturing that essence of, like I said, flying forward is just amazing. I think it's really hard to do. But speaking of hard to do, Senator, I'm going to go back over to you. And I'm sure it wasn't easy creating this ecosystem there in North Dakota, starting with the military and some of those missions you mentioned. As you look back, what constraints would you say have been some of the hardest that you had to overcome in advancing UAS development in the state?
So when we started in 2005, so we've been at this for 20 years now, and we didn't know what it was going to turn into, and obviously it's exceeded our expectations. But when we started out, we wanted the FAA to work with us to fly unmanned aircraft in the NAS, in the national airspace. And the answer was always no, 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 because if there's nothing up there, you can't have an accident. And their whole thing is safety. And so we thought, well, this is the perfect part of the country to do it because we have open airspace. We're not in the main flyway, so you don't have congestion issues. We have all of the expertise with people don't realize it, but actually the Grand Forks Air Force Base is in the top 25 in terms of landing and takeoffs because of our huge flight school. So we have the expertise and have had all those things made us a great place to help FAA figure out how they were going to handle this new technology, unmanned aircraft in the NAS. But the answer was always no, because they didn't, of course, want to take a chance. And that's why when I went to the Senate in 2011, I passed legislation, working with others, I passed legislation that set up 6 test sites that said, FAA, you have to allow these test sites to fly aircraft in the NAS. And that's really what we needed to just jumpstart the thing. I'd started a center of excellence at the University of North Dakota and a number of things like that to get going. But the Rubicon that we really had to get across was being able to develop this stuff in the NAS. And of course, we just couldn't until once we passed that legislation for the test sites where we said, FAA, you have to, they felt then kind of the onus or the problem was taken off their back. If something happened, well, they were directed by Congress. It was the law. They had to allow something up there. And that's where we really got going.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's really interesting, Senator, because oftentimes the military will advance technologies and then it'll cross over to the commercial sector. And, we having been in the Air Force myself, as you mentioned, we've been doing long range military operations with the Group 4 and 5 aircraft. I know some of them are sitting on the flight line there at Grand Forks Air Force Base as we speak. But what's really interesting to me is kind of this leap forward. And Tom, I'm going to go back to you, this leap forward where the military never really embraced like drone technology on the base for logistics. As an example, we all know a base is like a city, right? And that wing commander is like a mayor, for lack of a better term. And all the things that happen on a city, in a city, whether it's, there's firefighting, there's police work, there's all kinds of things. And the military was very reticent, I think, to embrace drone technologies for all those reasons. And let's fast forward to Project Ultra, because this really is groundbreaking. You wouldn't think so, but in terms of from a military base into the National Airspace System. That's something you talked about, Senator, and then back to another, basically military base, a space station in this instance, and Project Ultra. So, Tom, walk us through, how the idea for Ultra even was hatched. Was that your team? Was that DoD? Was this just a meeting of the minds? Because it seems to me like we should have been doing this a really long time ago, but we're finally getting there, and that's super exciting.
So a couple things, happened with that, Don. And, as with most things, serendipity certainly was at play. Office of Undersecretary of Defense had a small program and where they were doing a lot of traffic management. They were supporting NASA and AFRL with their Freddie and Clue systems, respectively, about traffic management, UAS traffic management. And that was growing and becoming more mature. Northern Plains Test Site and the University of North Dakota were a part of those programs. And they were raising their hand saying, hey, and Senator Hoeven has been extremely helpful with his leadership in adding getting a little bit more plus up in that program. And the program lead started to look around and said, well, wait a minute, we need a place where we can actually start to do these things, not just research and not just do the academic side of it. And I don't mean to, poo-poo that, but it's, they wanted to be able to start to fly. And we raised our hand and said, hey, we have this thing at GrandSKY. It's on a military base. We have the Class Delta airspace. The Air Force is on board. The congressional delegation is 100% supportive of this. We have the test site. You have all the ingredients that you need right here to be able to fly the aircraft and demonstrate the efficacy of your systems. And they said, you know what? You're right. Let's get a contract to you guys. We figured out how to work that out. I think we did a chat with you at the last AUVSI about getting contracts. And that contract, we needed a name. The senator has been so helpful with his leadership, and can't pass up a chance for a good name. So we came up with Ultra UAS Logistics, Traffic Management, Readiness, and Autonomy is what the acronym is for. And so we came up with that. Now, but the next step became we need real world scenarios. It's not enough to just fly a drone across a field and show a traffic management system. Let's actually do something with it. Cavalier Space Force Station is just up the road, just a little more than 50 miles away as the crow flies, but as a drive, it's much longer than that. And so it was, how can we move aircraft back and forth, again, all the way through? So we have to have complete visibility on that aircraft and everything around that aircraft in the airspace where that aircraft is flying. And that's easy here in the Class Delta because the Air Force Base knows everything and deconflicts everybody within the area around Grand Forks Air Force Base. But Cavalier is Class Echo or Gulf. I can't remember. I think it might be Echo. And it's so it's uncontrolled airspace. So, we have to coordinate and be able to show and know that we can fly safely. So that was a pretty big challenge that we had to work through to simulate that. And so as Ultra matures, it's going to take on more real world scenarios. And it is not a trivial thing, by the way. Using UAS in a beneficial way on base is very rare, but using UAS to leave Class Delta airspace, to leave the Air Force Base airspace and then come back into it takes a lot of trust. The Air Force needs to really trust us that we know what we're doing, our team knows what it's doing, and that it's our aircraft coming and going. And so, building that capability is where I see a little bit of future of Ultra going. But that's kind of how we got into this, a little bit of serendipity and a good quality name.
Yeah, well, love the name, acronym. Got to have an acronym if it's military, right? But the trust word is key because we haven't really been doing much even until recently on Air Force bases internal with drones. I think at GrandSKY you were using a drone to map the flight line at one point to check for cracks in the cement and things like this. Lots of use cases. But like you said, to leave and come back, very significant. And when this project started, if my memory serves, it was like $10 million cap, I think 5-year with multiple phases to it, if you will. Senator, I'm going to go back to you. You recently announced that the contract ceiling has been extended to 100 million. So times 10, doing public math here. I don't do that for Project Ultra. Okay, what does this mean for North Dakota's UAS industry?
Well, the reason we were able to get the increase in funding is first, it's a concept that the military needs, not just Air Force, not just Space Force, but DoD-wide. In order for them to, and I'm on defense appropriations, so I see it all the time. You've got armed services, they authorize all kinds of things, but we can only fund a fraction or a portion, I should say, of what they actually authorize. So we're the funnel, and we have to figure out and prioritize. And the thing is, we'll never have enough resources to fund everything that gets authorized, and of course, certainly everything we want. And so the key is, how do we make those dollars go as far as they possibly can at a time when technology is just racing?
Yes.
So this creates an opportunity where we combine DoD funds with North Dakota expertise in UAS technology, and we have the credibility with FAA to do it in the NAS. So we're not restricted to the base. We can fly. We've got a 70-mile CONUS. We've got a guard base nearby for that we can actually fly to, that also has a clearance. We have Army Guard base where we can do ground-based stuff. So if you want to do counter drone, use directed energy, think lasers, all those kind of things to take drones down. So we have all those capabilities, and we have all the resources, and we don't have the congestion problems that they do if you want to be down in Florida or out on the West Coast, or even in the desert with their ranges, where you have to, get in the queue and maybe someday get a chance to try, your technology. And then the other key point is this, and it was something that came across me very clearly in some of my conversations with CQ Brown when he was chairman of the Joint Chiefs. They've got to be able to look at technologies, DoD-wide, look at technologies, and then test those technologies for the circumstances they want, and then decide what they're going to procure or joint venture in terms of development. That old style where they would develop it themselves over a period of years, we don't have the resources to do it. And by the time they're done and the thing's actually in use, the technology's already dated. So this is the new model. And I think we've shown that, which is why we're already up to 100 million in authorization. And I think you're going to see it grow from there.
Well, that's amazing, sir. And Tom, back over to you. With this $100 million contract ceiling now, what other kinds of opportunities does this open up, not just for GrandSKY and North Dakota in general, but for the industry writ large? Because I know from day one, when you guys secured Project Ultra, you've been very open about partnerships with companies, with industry. I mean, the senator just alluded to it. The commercial industry is what's going to kind of make the DoD soar in terms of whether it's logistics or counter drone. So what opportunities do you see now opening up even further with this new higher ceiling?
That's kind of, I hate to use the euphemism, the sky's the limit, but it sort of is.
Yeah.
I don't want to leave what the senator's comments too quickly. This episode is bigger and better, and we went from it was actually an $18 million contract to a $100 million contract. And that is not that doesn't happen that often. Usually those are recompeted or things like that. So you want bigger and better. Well, the bigger parts happened. Now the better part, and the better part for us is, it's important to kind of note, GrandSKY, we only do a small percentage of the actual work on this contract. We manage it. We're responsible for it, but our partners are the ones that do the lion's share of the work, and earn that value and earn that revenue from that. And so we're always looking for more partners. I think this contract ceiling now allows us to bring other partners to the table. So, for example, maybe there's a DARPA program that they need a place to fly. Well, they can, get a task order under Project Ultra. Or even outside of DoD, if DHS, which just had a big exercise up here in North Dakota for counter UAS, they can come to Project Ultra and utilize that contract ceiling. So what I think it means is organizations that have money, but maybe not contractual access to a place to do things, we are going to attract all of that to Grand Forks. And so we expect all of our partners. And if there are companies with unique technologies, our only kind of minimum criteria is that you have an SBIR or an STTR, or you're in some other government program, any federal government program around UAS that says, oh, you're not a brand new technology. Someone's already taken a first step to evaluate your system. Whether your SBIR is expired or not, you're eligible to come and be a part of Ultra. So we are going to be building multiple task orders now around more logistics for one. I expect a counter UAS task order to come. I expect a lot of airspace management to be integrated into all of them. And more developmental work will come along with this. So there's a lot of opportunity coming within Project Ultra.
Amazing. And I know we're going to pop up this image here. This is the drone that you all have been using, and this is a Skyways drone. And I remember, Tom, when you and I spoke earlier, you talked about how they had a SBIR sitter with the Navy. And that was a great bridge to bring that aircraft over to do these initial deliveries. So really exciting times that now, for lack of a better term, the aperture will be opened, to additional drone companies, UTM companies, counter drone. As you say, the sky is the limit. And Senator, this project is so important, but when it comes to military readiness, I imagine it's going to have tremendous impacts, not just there between Grand Forks Air Force Base and Cavalier Space Station, but also maybe other locations across the DoD. How do you see Project Ultra as a springboard to a larger kind of movement in the DoD to use drones more readily for things like logistics?
Right. So that's exactly the purpose of it. General Wilsbach, formerly ACC commander, came out, and he was having at that time trouble with drones flying over Langley, and he's got F-35s, F-22s, and everything there. And
I remember this, and I used to be assigned there, so I know exactly what he's talking about.
Yeah. And so it's the drone, and it's the counter drone is a huge thing as well. And so when you look at this project, it is going to expand in so many ways. For example, we have Customs and Border Protection located on Grand Forks Air Force Base. We have 900 miles of border responsibility all the way from the Great Lakes all the way up to Montana. 900 miles. They fly manned and unmanned aircraft out of Grand Forks Air Force Base to patrol that border. In the One Big Beautiful Bill, there's $450 million for Operation Stone Garden, which provides funds for states to help secure their border where they have an international border. Also, there's another $500 million in there for drone and counter drone to secure the border. So we just had Commissioner of Customs and Border Protection, Rodney Scott, out on the base last week, looking at the ecosystem we've built, and he's got to develop these drone and counter drone technology applications for 3,000 miles on the northern border and 1,000 miles on the southern border. And he's looking at our ecosystem and going where he's already a partner, one of our many, many partners that we talked about. And he's got this funding. He needs to find and test solutions. What better place to do it? So, which is why he's out here, very shortly after being confirmed. So you talked about the opportunities. It's not just DoD. It's all of these drone and counter drone operations. And it just makes our tax dollars go so much further with what we've created here. We can get so much more accomplished, do a much better job at a lot lower cost.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't realize the border there. I mean, that makes a lot of sense. And for CBP to be leveraging the ecosystem you all have been building since 2005, that also makes an abundant amount of sense. So you can just see how this is going to continue to grow and thrive. And Tom, it's been, a little bit of baby steps along the way, including in terms of Project Ultra. So these latest demos, you just did them, I think, in the last month or so, in July for the medical deliveries. Can you share a little bit about how that went?
It went well. We had a requirement for The first requirement was 10 round trips back and forth to Cavalier, carrying different kinds of cargoes like med kits. We took some lunches up to the team that was working up in Cavalier, and doing those kinds of things. And so that was successful. And then we had some leftover time. So we did a medical flight where we carried 18 units of blood product, sterilized blood product. So it was non-hazardous, because there's a whole set of rules around that we're all going to have to work through as an industry. But
Right.
this was sterilized blood to make it safe in case there was a mishap. But it was, 18. So our goal was to carry it to Cavalier and back, maintaining temperature, maintaining integrity, and to be able to then analyze the blood afterwards, which the medical group here on Grand Forks Air Force Base did, to determine if there was any impacts. Did the vibration cause any separation in the blood product itself? Did it separate out plasma from platelets? And I'm not a doctor, so I'm just, using words that I've heard. But can they separate those things out? And what did the drone, the mechanical function of the drone do to those things? Those were successful flights. We were very pleased with the outcome. And it clearly demonstrates how we can start to envision drones being used for rural healthcare, to be able to bring life-saving medications, blood products, things like that, to be able to bring diagnostic tools, to be able to bring EKGs and as things to stop cardiac arrest. And there's a lot of different things that we can be able to do with that we can simplify, so we can get a drone from here to Cavalier far faster. Even if you had police escort and guaranteed the roads were closed, we could still beat you to Cavalier than with a drone than if you were driving. So those minutes count. And so we believe that there's a lot of use for drones in the medical field, defense related and rural healthcare related.
Yeah, absolutely. And right there in North Dakota, you've got the best of both worlds with respect to both of those. So, ideally postured to do all of this testing. And Senator, I'm going to go back to you. As we look forward, there's been so much growth, as Tom said, from 18 million now to 100 million. What's on your roadmap in terms of where you'd like to see the UAS industry in North Dakota going as kind of a next step? I mean, I know you're not one to rest on your laurels, and certainly North Dakota is always forging ahead. So what do you kind of see on your whiteboard or in your crystal ball as something that we might expect out of North Dakota in the future?
Well, right now our test site is setting up the raw data feed from the FAA. We'll be the first place in the country that has it. And so for drone and counter drone development, that's going to be a huge and unique benefit that we have here that our partners are going to be able to use. And essentially with Project Ultra, like I say, it's not only creating this space, as Tom explained, to do all these things, where it would take you many, many years to get to that point. Almost anywhere else you go, you can't do these things. And it takes, like I say, we've been at this for 20 years. This isn't an overnight deal. And so it's a unique situation that offers incredible opportunity for everybody in the industry. And in terms of, specifically Project Ultra that we're talking about, remember, they're going to do one flight a week for a whole year. They're going to make this routine, flying in the NAS without chase aircraft, carrying various types of cargo and so on and so forth. And so essentially what we're doing is we're, creating the ability to fly unmanned aircraft in the national airspace. And again, those things that take so much time to build, we have built up so much trust and credibility with FAA. They allow us to come do these things. That's why we're going to have the raw data feed before anyone else does. That's what I mean. It takes a long time to build the UAS ecosystem that we have, but that creates incredible opportunities to help FAA deal with this technology and how we're going to develop and deploy it safely in the NAS.
No, absolutely. You mentioned chase planes, and I just remember when I was the head lawyer at the Air Force Academy, we just wanted a large drone. You know, they always have flyovers, right, for the cadets. They sometimes land those aircraft right in the middle of the quad there. And we wanted to do that with the drone because we had a vice superintendent that was an RPA pilot. And we could not make it happen. We just could not make it. This was, you know, a handful of years ago. But it was all about we needed like 2 chase planes and this and that. And it was just like, this is crazy. We literally just want to. So they had to truck the thing in parts and assemble it on the quad so the cadets could see it, you know, and touch it. And these are our future pilots, right? Like that was just crazy. So I love how you've really pushed the envelope here with Project Ultra and everything you're doing in North Dakota, sir. It's amazing from where I'm sitting, and I think from where so many other people are sitting. Tom, we only have a couple minutes left. I'm going to give the senator the final closing remarks here. But before we do that, you know, as you look at your crystal ball, you said, you know, there's now 100 million out there. There's more task orders to be had. You know, what do you see on the immediate horizon? When will these weekly flights start? That's what I want to know.
We have already been asked for the proposal to get that going. I think that process will start in September.
Amazing.
And yeah, so 52 flights. So you can break it down to 1 a week. And I think we'll break it down to, hey, it's a good weather week. Let's cram a bunch of them in. It'll be, you know, fly as much as we can. But for me, I see an opportunity here, particularly at Grand Forks Air Force Base, to deal with traffic management and the beneficial use of drones to do inspections, perimeter security, parking lots, building, all the kind of inspection work, plus then all the kind of first responder support work. What does it look like to a base like Grand Forks to have 75 drones in the air at the same time? Not 1 or 2, but lots of them of different sizes, category 1, 2, and 3. So I see that in our immediate future.
That's incredible. And we are also very much looking forward to seeing that happen as well. Senator, I'm going to give you the floor for final remarks here as we close out today's show. I want to thank you again. Thank Tom, of course, for this amazing series that GrandSKY supported across the podcast every quarter, and the ability to have you on our show. It's quite an honor. So, sir, over to you.
Well, a couple things. One is, you know, at the Grand Forks Air Force Base, we have cutting edge ISR. We are deeply involved in the low Earth orbit satellite mission. We're part of the whole hypersonic development. So this ecosystem is really amazing. And we have more partners. We have more partners not only throughout the DoD, we mentioned Customs and Border Protection, the state, and all those kind of things, but just with the private sector. And I mean from the very large companies to the very small entrepreneurial companies. And we want more partners. This is an incredible opportunity. We invite people to come join us. Every October, we have a huge conference. It's the second or third week in October. Anyone interested in all things unmanned aviation should come. It's incredible. And so huge thanks to Tom Swoyer. He's just great. He's just off the hook. One of the best. We love him. And thank you, Don, so much for letting us talk about what we're doing and for putting it out there for folks. And we really appreciate you coming up to our conference as well. So thanks so much.
Well, again, thank you, and very much look forward to seeing you and the rest of the team out there in North Dakota in October at the UAS Summit. That is awesome. I'm looking forward to that. Everybody else, thank you so much for joining us today. That's all she wrote. We are out here.